They walk into the room and in 5 seconds, you're already exposed. Your nervous blink, your shifting weight, that fake laugh. You didn't think anyone noticed, but they did, because they were trained to. Behind tinted glasses and ironed suits, FBI agents have mastered an arsenal of psychological tools designed to read you like a headline, without you ever saying a word. These aren't party tricks. These are battlefield tactics, honed through interrogations, espionage, and deception. Most people walk around blind to human behavior. They focus on the words, completely unaware that the body is constantly leaking truth. You've probably trusted people you shouldn't have, missed red flags in business deals, or walked away from conversations feeling like something was off. But you couldn't quite put your finger on it. The truth is, reading people isn't some mystical gift. It's a system. And the FBI has refined it for decades. Forget what you've been told about trusting your gut. That's not how professional interrogators operate. They don't guess. They observe patterns, repeatable, predictable patterns that anyone can learn. CEOs, negotiators, poker players, elite salespeople, many of them borrow from the same playbook the Bureau uses. It's not about feeling. It's about decoding. There's a story from the 90s. An FBI trainee just weeks out of Quantico sat in on an interrogation of a suspect who showed zero emotion. The veteran agents thought they had a clean guy. But that trainee noticed one thing. Every time a certain name came up, the suspect's foot started tapping. Just a little, but consistently. That single observation blew open the case. Because when someone talks, they lie with their mouth. But the body? The body can't help but speak the truth. The first and most important technique they use is the baseline technique. Before an FBI agent ever judges your behavior, they study it. Why? Because context is everything. The baseline technique means observing how someone behaves when they're under no pressure. How do they talk when they're relaxed? Where do their eyes go naturally? What's their default pace of speech or hand movement? Once that baseline is locked in, any deviation becomes a signal. If someone suddenly starts blinking more or their voice gets tighter, they're not just nervous, they're reacting to something. A question, a lie, a threat. Most amateurs jump to conclusions. Professionals know you don't chase the noise. You study the silence first. You can't detect deception unless you understand someone's truth. Technique number 2, the anchor and contrast method. This technique is subtle psychological warfare. It's used to measure emotional or verbal reactions by comparing extremes. Imagine you're interrogating someone about a $10,000 theft. You start by casually suggesting a $100,000 embezzlement. Watch their reaction. If they flinch or defend, you've struck a nerve, then drop to the real figure. Suddenly, $10,000 feels less bad. That's anchor and contrast. It's not just about questions, it works socially too. If you want to gauge someone's comfort zone, push past it first, then ease back in. The FBI uses this to corner suspects, but you can use it to negotiate better deals, read discomfort, or even test honesty. It's manipulation masked as conversation. Technique number 3, the eye-accessing cues. Popularized by neurolinguistic programming, this technique says that the direction someone's eyes move can reveal their thought patterns. When people look up and to the right, they're likely visualizing something they've created, a lie. Up and to the left, they're remembering something they saw, truth. Sideways movements often indicate auditory recall or construction. Downward movements relate to internal feelings or self-talk. But here's the FBI's twist. They don't assume these cues are universal. Instead, they test them. Ask a simple known question first, like what color was your first car? Track the eyes, then compare when the real questions start. It's not foolproof, but paired with baselining, it's deadly accurate. Technique number 4, the forced silence tactic. Humans hate silence. We scramble to fill it. FBI interrogators weaponize that discomfort. After asking a question, especially a sensitive one, they shut up completely. No nods, no just stillness. The subject feels the weight of the silence and starts talking, sometimes saying way more than they intended. You can use this socially. Ask a loaded question in a meeting, then wait. Let the silence do the digging. People rush to explain, over-justify, or even confess. It's not aggressive, it's primal. We're wired to fear the void. The best readers of people know, those who can control silence control the truth. Technique number 5, the comfort zone collapse. An agent doesn't interrogate you in your bedroom. They bring you to their space. A cold room. No clocks, no personal items, that's intentional. When people are outside their comfort zone, their control weakens, their habits break, their guard drops. This is called the comfort zone collapse. You can replicate this in subtle ways. Change the location of a serious conversation. Alter the seating arrangement. Interrupt patterns. Even in finance or business, shifting someone out of routine triggers subconscious disorientation, making their tells more visible. People are hardest to read when they feel safe. The trick? Make them slightly unsafe, without them realizing why. Technique number 6. The pacifier behavior decode. Pacifier behaviors are subtle, soothing gestures people do unconsciously when they're under stress. Think rubbing the neck, touching the face, adjusting the collar, or even tapping a pen. These aren't just nervous habits. They're physical attempts to regulate anxiety. The FBI calls these leakage behaviors. When someone feels internal pressure, their body searches for release, and pacifier actions are the cracks where it escapes. The key is timing. Watch when the pacifier happens. Before the question, it's anticipation. After, it's response. If you ask about missing funds and they immediately rub their temple or crack their knuckles, that's the body signaling discomfort. Not guilt necessarily, but definitely something deeper. Spotting pacifiers means spotting where the heat lives in the conversation. Technique number 7, the cluster principle. One gesture is never enough. Professionals never jump on a single twitch or eye roll. Instead, they look for clusters. 3 or more cues happening together in rapid succession. For example, if someone crosses their arms, averts their gaze, and leans away, that is a cluster. That's a story being told by the body, not just a coincidence. The FBI trains agents to wait for clusters before acting on a read. This prevents misinterpretation and helps separate anxiety from deception. One tell might mean nothing. 3. That's a signal. Clusters are the difference between guessing and knowing. You want to be dangerous? Start counting the patterns, not just the parts. Technique number 8. The emotional mismatch test. Truth has a rhythm. Words and emotions align naturally. Lies, on the other hand, often stumble. When someone says they're angry but their tone is flat, or they claim they're confused but their body is rigid and defensive, it creates a mismatch. The FBI looks for this emotional incongruence. It's subtle but powerful. If a subject says, "I'm happy to help," while clenching their jaw and glancing sideways, that disharmony raises red flags. Our emotions are hardwired to sync with our words. When they don't, something's off. Spotting mismatches is like hearing an off-key note in a symphony. Most people feel it, but agents name it. Technique number 9, the micro-expression catch. Micro-expressions are lightning-fast facial movements that flash for a fraction of a second, too fast to fake or control. A brief flash of fear before a smile, a momentary smirk before denial. These expressions leak the truth before the brain can apply its filter. The FBI trains agents to recognize these glitches using slowed-down video footage, frame by frame. But in real life, it's all about attention. You don't need to catch every blink, just the first reaction. That first muscle twitch, the flicker in the eyes, the tension in the lips. It's the body speaking before the brain censors. In finance or negotiation, these split-second flashes reveal confidence, discomfort, or deception faster than any spreadsheet can. Technique number 10. The reverse narrative play. When someone tells a story, especially a fabricated one, it usually flows forward, chronological, linear. But the FBI uses a deadly test. Reverse the timeline. Ask them to retell it backward. What did you do right before that? Where were you just before that happened? Liars struggle. Why? Because they've rehearsed the story in one direction. Reversing it forces them to reconstruct, and the cracks appear. Truth, on the other hand, is easier to rewind. If it really happened, memory retrieves it in fragments, not scripts. This technique is subtle and best used in high-stakes discussions like fraud cases or shady deals. But even casually asking someone to walk back their timeline reveals how deeply the truth is buried. Or if it's buried at all. Technique number 11. The controlled confrontation setup. This isn't about yelling. It's about applying targeted pressure to provoke a revealing reaction. FBI agents will confront someone with a small, undeniable truth, something the subject knows they can't deny. We know you accessed the account at 2:03 p.m. Not up for debate. Then they pause, watch, listen. Because here's what happens. When cornered by a truth, liars pivot. They either minimize, justify, or deflect. It wasn't for long. I was just checking. Someone told me to. That pivot is gold. In the business world, this tactic is like dropping a quiet, loaded fact in a boardroom, then watching who sweats first. Controlled confrontation isn't about rage, it's about using truth like a scalpel. Technique number 12. The repetition fatigue technique. Here's a brutal truth. Lies take energy. The truth, not so much. That's why FBI interrogators repeat questions over time, sometimes hours later or phrased differently. Can you walk me through that again? And after that, where did you go? The goal is to exhaust the fabricated narrative. Liars build stories like houses of cards. One piece out of place and the whole thing collapses. But the truth? It stays intact, even when tired. You can adapt this tactic in high-stakes meetings. Ask for details again after a delay. You're not being annoying. You're stress-testing their narrative. Anyone confident in the truth will welcome the chance to clarify. Those who aren't will crack. Technique number 13. The deliberate misinformation probe. This one is risky but devastating when used right. FBI agents will sometimes intentionally present a false detail to see how the subject reacts. For example, we heard you met him at 5 p.m., not 6. If the subject corrects the detail confidently, no, it was definitely 6, and shows no signs of stress, it builds credibility. But if they latch onto the fake detail, yeah, 5 sounds right, they're likely just trying to blend. You can use this in subtle ways in everyday scenarios. Drop a wrong stat in a pitch. Misname a minor detail. If they catch it, good. If they go along with it, you just found a follower, not a leader. Or worse, a liar. Technique number 14. The start from the middle technique. People rehearsing a lie usually start strong. They memorize the intro, polish the delivery. But if you make them start from the middle, that polish fades. The FBI uses this method to scramble rehearsed responses. Tell me what happened after you parked the car. Boom, the script shatters. It forces them into cognitive improvisation, and liars are terrible improvisers. Truthful people, they lived it. They might pause, but they'll recover with genuine, consistent detail. Use this to spot rehearsed elevator pitches or exaggerated resumes. Ask for the part no one expects to retell. The middle is where the truth lives, or the lie breaks. Technique number 15. The personal pronoun shifting test. This one's for the linguistically observant. People under stress, especially when lying, often distance themselves from what they're saying. It shows up in their grammar. I becomes we. I didn't do it becomes no one did anything wrong. Or worse, they drop pronouns entirely. Went to the meeting, talked to them, left right after. The FBI listens for these shifts. Lack of ownership in speech is a red flag. It signals disconnection, guilt, or an attempt to dodge responsibility. You can train your ear for this in interviews, deals, even casual chats. The more vague the subject becomes, the more they're trying to slip away from the truth. Technique number 16, the delay then drop method. This is the agent's version of a Trojan horse. You don't ask the key question immediately. You wait. Build rapport. Make them feel unthreatened. Then, when their guard's down, you drop it, casually. Oh, by the way, about that transfer on March 14th. The delay softens the impact. Their brain isn't ready. And what happens when people are caught off guard? The truth slips through. In finance, this works brilliantly in negotiations or due diligence. Ask the heavy stuff last when they're mentally checked out or emotionally exposed. The brain's defense mechanisms decay over time. The best strikes happen in the fade out. Technique number 17, the foot in the door technique. Classic psychological maneuver. The FBI doesn't barge in with big asks, they start small. Mind if we clarify something? Then another question, then a slightly bolder one. By the time the real ask comes, where were you that night? It feels like a natural continuation. The person's already said yes too many times to back out. This is compliance conditioning, and it works in any field. Ask someone for a tiny concession early. Can we run 5 numbers by you? Then escalate. By the end, they're agreeing to things they never would have considered at the start. One yes leads to another. It's not just persuasion, it's momentum. Technique number 18, the isolation lens. FBI agents know group dynamics are camouflage. People hide in collectives. But when you isolate someone, even temporarily, their individuality cracks open. Alone, there's no one to mimic, no ally to echo, just raw behavior. You can do this too. Want to really read someone? Talk to them one-on-one. In meetings, pull them aside. In strategy, split them from their team. Isolation removes scripts. You'll see their real language, their real energy, their real stance. It's like turning off the crowd noise to hear the soloist falter. The truth often lives where there's no audience to impress. Technique number 19, the innocent ask trap. Sounds harmless, that's the point. You frame a serious probe like a casual, almost irrelevant question. By the way, who has access to the backup drives? It's bait. If they hesitate, redirect, or over-answer, something's off. The FBI uses this to uncover hidden ties or secrets without triggering defense. It's a behavioral decoy. In finance, this translates to, just curious who else reviewed this report. You're not really asking about logistics. You're watching reactions. If they choke, they're hiding something. Innocent questions aren't for answers. They're for openings. Technique number 20, the endgame silence. This is the final move, the close. After a long interrogation or conversation, you don't end with more talking. You end with silence, weighted, purposeful. You look, you wait. People think it's over, so they drop their final mask. It's the relief reveal. In that moment, suspects confess. Investors overshare. Liars unravel. Why? Because their brain thinks the pressure is off. And when the pressure's off, the truth comes out. The FBI knows the last 5 seconds can matter more than the previous 5 hours. In every power play, the endgame silence is your mirror. It shows them who they really are. These aren't tricks. They're strategies developed through thousands of interrogations used by FBI agents, field operatives, and top-tier negotiators. They've been used to extract confessions, detect fraud, even prevent attacks. And now, high-level recruiters, investors, and entrepreneurs are learning the same techniques to read who's real and who's playing a role. But remember, knowledge without practice fades. These cues only reveal themselves when you know where to look. And when it becomes muscle memory, that's when conversations start unfolding like open books. If this unlocked something in you, if you want to go deeper into the tactics the world's most persuasive and dangerous people use, follow now. Because next time we're taking this a step further. Into the territory of influence, coercion, and psychological control. The kind you're already being exposed to. You just haven't seen it yet.